Okay, welcome back. So at this point, you've got your initial code working. Your servos are all rotating, but some of them are probably rotating opposite of others. So the task is to figure out which ones are rotating correctly and which ones are rotating the wrong direction. We're going to use the code next to switch that direction and make them rotate all together. So if you need help with that, ask Tony or myself or any of the other people here to help you, and we'll help you figure out which way they should be rotating for what you want the robot to do. We're also going to be able to add a little bit of a correction factor. So if some of the angles aren't quite right, you can add a correction factor to bring them back up to where they're supposed to be. This is important for a few reasons. One, just to get everything lined up really well. And secondly, if when you're driving your robot when we're at the pool, you notice that your front end keeps lifting up on you, you can add a little correction factor to the front, to any of the servos, to drag it and push it back down to level. So we can actually control in on our pool day, we can control how the robot goes by adding these factors to adjust the angle of each of the thrusters. Okay, with all that said, let's go. I'm going to delete this real quick. Let's go to the code and see what's going on. So here's where we left off with the servo code. What we want to do now is we want to figure out which ones are rotating wrong. For me, it was my left motor, my left servo that was rotating wrong. So what I'm going to do is come over here and say, well, I mapped it so that 0 from the joystick would go to 0 angle. But I can easily just reverse that and say, you know what? Instead, when the joystick's at 0, I want this servo to rotate the other way, so to 180. And I can make this 180 go to 0. So now when the joystick goes up, it rotates the opposite of the other two, which for me, we're going in the right direction. Again, for you, you might have different results. You might want to be flipping 2 of them or 1 of them. However you want to do it is fine. Okay, now I don't actually, when I did this change, I don't need to worry about any of these others because all this is still just code running through. So at this point, I'm going to upload this code and just make sure that everything is working properly. So I'm going to upload my code here. Give it a second. Yep, so now they're rotating. They're not all rotating the exact same speed. That's just a variance in the servo, but they're all rotating in the same direction, and that's the direction I want them to rotate. So mine are all set up. If you need help with that, get help with that. Next thing we want to do is we want to add a correction factor. Right now, my left servo and my front servo are both angled a little bit too high. When I was putting them back on, you can't get it perfectly the right angle because there's those teeth in there. So those two are a little bit high. I'm going to angle them down a little bit. To do that, I'm going to add a correction factor to the L servo angle. So I'm going to enter. And what I want to do, I'm going to tab over. I'm going to say, hey, my L servo angle, I want it to be a little bit bigger than what the joystick says. So I want to correct it. Actually, it's a little high now, so I'm going to go down a little bit. So I'm going to say minus, 5 degrees. Let's see how that works. Semicolon. So what the Arduino is going to do is going to take whatever value is stored in the servo angle and make it 5 degrees smaller. Now we haven't actually stored that new number anywhere, so I'm going to do something really strange here. I'm going to tell it, hey, what I want you to do is take the current servo value, subtract 5 from it, and then take that new number and store it in the L servo angle. So I'm going to put L servo angle out front and do an equal sign. So this might be like, this is where it's not an equal sign. What this says is take the current value that's stored in L servo angle, subtract 5 from it, and then store that new number in L servo angle, erasing the old number. So the equal sign is also before and after. The stuff on the right is before, and then the stuff on the left is where it's going to be stored after you do the work. Okay, so this uses a correction factor to adjust the angle of the servo. All right, and now I'm going to send this through the code, and I'm just going to check the L servo, see if it made it better or made it worse. So I'm going to upload it and just watch it as it starts up. What I say is as soon as it starts up, it'll rotate. Oh, it's still working. Okay, it looks like it's gotten worse. So the -5 wasn't a good idea. I'm going to change the minus to a plus, and I'm going to upload it one more time. This will be the process for you. You'll just fidget with them until you get kind of the right, maybe 5's the wrong number, and you need to do 4 instead, or 7, who knows, to make it work. Ooh, that looks dead on. All right, so here, use the correct angle, let's see, plus angles it down. So I'm going to add this little comment in here, maybe put it in quotation marks. That way later I know that if I do plus, it'll make it more down instead of up. Okay. And now I'm going to do Control C, Control V, 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 and I'm going to change, as you might have already guessed, the L to R here and the L to F and F. Now my right servo, I kind of like where it is, so I'm going to leave it at 0. I'm not going to add any angle to it. And the reason I'm going to still put it in here is because later at the pool, I might actually want to adjust them all and do some more adjustments. I'll have it ready to go if I do it now. And then my F servo angle is, yeah, I'll try a +5. Although I think it's going to be a -5 because I think the L, yeah, the L and the R are backwards to each other. So I'm going to guess it's a -5 and try it out. And my guess is that these two are going to be up because they're rotating the same direction. See if my intuition is correct. Yes. On this one, 5 was too much, so I'm going to do a -3 here instead. I'm not going to waste your time with testing it, but that's what you would do. Just tweak around and fiddle around with things. Now, all of these are super important because what we've done is we've added 5. So when the L servo is 180, this code here is going to change that 180 to 185. But that's okay because when it hits here, it'll change that 185 back to a 180. So this is what these if statements will help us avoid doing. Just like here, when we get down to 0, it's going to turn to a -3, and then this will solve it down here. All right, I think that's it for the code. We're fully up and running. The servos should be done. That is stage 1 programming. Well done, my friends. If yours is working, celebrate. You're doing a great job. Keep it up.